All right. Wait, that's the wrong screen still. Boom. There we go. Sorry about that. Anyway, welcome back. Um, so if you were here when I was working on this before, you may remember that we had some issues getting this whole thing to work. And I think what I'm going to do is rather than run based on like just send this like is this button pressed, what we're gonna do is I didn't want to do this because I really thought that I was gonna be able to get away with just having a single function here. Also, why is this like this now? Okay, there's the screen that I wanted. So this is going to be BPI cancel. Actually, here's what we'll do. We'll call it interact start, and we'll call it interact end. Can I? Thank you. Compile, save. Now if we come back over here, we'll see this has been renamed to interact start. And I think at this point I can get rid of this. So we're going to come back down here, though, and so we still want to say starting and canceled for our things. And at least for right now, I don't know that I need this anymore. If we need to pass a Boolean through, then we'll deal with that later. But so we come back over here, we're going to see that this connection is going to not work anymore, and that's fine. Because what we're going to want to do now is make interact end. Add events end. And wait. So rather than have this, what we're going to do is we're going to have that this should just run through. Or am I missing something? What am I missing here? Okay, so no, I'm right. On this, we want... No, wait. What am I... Okay, I'm thinking, but I'm not remembering what I was thinking. Um... What was I thinking? So I'm trying to track the logic that I have so far. So before we were looking to see if the button was still held down, right? Okay, so this is where we jump in. So on false, now we play from start. I'm just going to do this for some readability's sake. And then on interact end, from here we want to reverse from the current point. Now back over here on our thing. We're first looking to see can engage. And then hit actor. So on canceled, we just want to run interact end. And we want to send that as a message to our hit actor. And I think I'm going to copy this so that actually instead of this, what we're going to do is I'm going to rename this to, like, instead of is engaged. And on this, we want to set it to true. And then over here, we're going to check to see if it's true. And if it is, we need to, first off, we need to set it false. So not true anymore. So we are no longer engaged. And then, am I already tracking this one up here? Is engaged, yes. Already being tracked, perfect, and that is the white one. So, if we run this now, I don't think this is going to work right off the bat, but something's not working. Okay. Did I do something to the third person input here? Or to the action itself? No. Okay. So at this point, as soon as the button is released, it should be saying that it's done, right? Or do I have to add a press? Or that's not what I want. I want pressed. All right, so let's try this now. What am I missing? So in our third person character, we have, once it's started, maybe if I do completed, all right, let's try this. Let's try completed instead of canceled. All right, and then all right, so we have a problem still, but it's actually doing what I've programmed it to do. At this point, I hold down. As long as the button's held down, it's true. On false, then it runs the reverse code. We need to set some conditions so that it doesn't run the reverse code every single time. We want it to only run the reverse code basically now. I didn't mean to close wall. Whoops. We only want it to run the reverse code when the target is not visible. So we're going to branch, and rather than true, we're going to do on false. And the condition here is going to be the same as with this one. So that way, what should happen now is it will detect I think now nothing will happen, which is a starting point. Wait, maybe I do want it on. No. Okay, so what I wanted to happen was nothing, basically. Also, we have another issue. Okay, so now it's working. But the issue that I'm facing now is, for some reason, oh, no, it is working exactly as intended. Okay, one moment. So we press it once, and it works, right? It goes away. Press it again, countdown, wall returns. That's kind of what we want, because that's going to be how we more or less set the difficulty here, right? Is we need the return, like the wall returning needs to take time, right? But we also want it so that if you let go of the button now, while this countdown is happening, then so what do I want to look for in order to make sure that it actually should run the code in reverse on interact end? Because that's what's going to check to see if the button is being held down. Because we only wanted to reverse it if this whole thing, like, we only want it to reverse if this is running, right? So what I think we need to do is in here we need to create a variable, and it's going to be a Boolean, and we're going to call this wall repairing. And while this timeline is running, wall repairing needs to be true. As soon as it's finished, wall repairing goes back to false. So, off of here, branch, if wall repairing is true, reverse. So now let's see what happens. So far so good. Hold down, release, and I can see the number counting down, but it's still on completion. Okay, what I think we're going to have to do is make sure that the value here is actually at 1 and not 0. So off of here, branch. Because what I think is happening is that when the update code is running, it sets wall repairing to true, like even if it's running in reverse. If that makes sense. So what we need to do now is we need to look to see what the new time, what the track time is. And we need to make sure it actually equals 1. Because otherwise that means it's running in reverse, and we don't want to set the visibility. Actually, wait. I think we want wall repairing to be set false on finished no matter what then, right? So that should run first. Then we check to see whether or not we should make the wall visible. So wall gone. And if I don't hold down the button for long enough, then the wall does not come back. Now, does it actually come back if I hold down the button for 1 second? Yes. Perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. All right. So the reason that I'm setting it up the way I'm setting it up is because we can actually come in here and adjust the time on this Right now, it's only lasting 1 second, but based on this timeline, we just need the value of this variable to go from 0 to 1. I can actually rename this to repair time, because that's going to make the point of it clear, right? So we come over here, and what will happen once we actually have an exploded wall in here is once I can set the wall to play a cached physics animation. Also, what I'm going to do here, just to simulate what's supposed to happen, basically, is I want to create a delay. And we're going to make this delay half a second. So if I spam the button, nothing should happen, because it's going to delay, and everything else is based right now on whether or not the wall is even visible. So this code will have some issues that we need to work out once we get into the rest, but for now, this works, right? And there was our delay. There's the wall back. And again, I was spamming the button there. You see it didn't try and double execute the code or anything. Perfect. Boom. Nice. This wall is working exactly as intended now. Just what we want to see. Okay. So, now that we have that, I do not feel like I can comfortably work on the exploding wall part on stream today. Just because I'm still not 100% sure how that's going to be done. Because one option, the one that I want to do, is we actually simulate this in Engine. But simulating it in Engine is going to be... First off, I'm going to need to learn how to do it again, because I have totally forgotten. And second, I'm going to need to actually learn how to, first off, run the simulation, then cache the simulation. Then we're going to need to play it back, and we're going to need to learn how to not just play it back, but let it play in reverse. And that might actually require that we do this on more than one timeline. What I'm hoping, though, is that the cache thing will store it as a sort of an animation with a timeline that can be mapped to this value. And that way it'll be like, okay, well, we're going to map the progress of this based on this. And if it's going forward, then we're going to do this, right? And if it goes backwards, then we're going to do this. And we could still potentially control it with the timeline or with whatever else you use to control the cache data, and we'll just replace the timeline with that, and everything else here should still basically work the same way. Anyway, I don't need this anymore, so at least not right now, so I'm going to disconnect it. I think, I've only been going, what, an hour or something like that? Hour, 20 minutes. I guess, okay, let's do the other thing that I want to have happen here. Because this is probably what I should track it on, actually, instead of visibility, is whether or not I can collide with it. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna select our cube, the cube asset. It's over here, selected in the thing. Then we're gonna come back over to our event graph, and we want we don't want to simulate physics. Where's my collision? There's collision. Collision presets. We have actually, it's not the cube that we need to worry about. The cube, first off, I think needs to be overlap all dynamic so that we can walk through it. But what I'm not sure about, this is going to require some testing, is I need to be able to interact with this So yeah, right now this is not firing when it's on the wall. So what we need to do is back in our trace channel, is we might need to change how this works from sphere trace by channel to oh no, there's another type for objects, and then we can create an array of objects that we like. Oh, I didn't want multi. So once I've done that and I've made this into a thing, I can come in here. Oh, that's not what I thought it was. Okay. Is it by profile? Because we might need to do two traces, basically. We might need to run this trace just to make sure we don't hit walls. But then we need to run a second... I don't want to run a second trace. I want to get the same data for the first trace. I wish I could set two different profiles, but it doesn't look like that's a possibility. Unless if I do it by a multi by profile. Nope, I can still only set one. Can I... True if there was a blocking hit, false otherwise. So right now this is working based off visibility. And technically, even though we can't see it in game, this collision box is quote unquote visible. But I think, one moment, if I come back in here, what we'll see is that this, yeah, it's not even registering a collision because nothing here is blocking. So, how did I do this before? I don't want to do two sphere trace. I don't want to do two separate traces. But I don't know how else to do this. Because what's either going to need to happen is I'm going to need to do one trace to make sure I can't go through walls. Or actually, do I? Yeah, I would, because I need to do the would I collide with this, right? So I'd either have to tag literally every object as a thing that would prevent me from moving forward, or am I making sense? You guys would tell me if I wasn't making sense, right? And I still need to figure out some way of like detecting like if a value is if one of these values has changed, like, you know, because like what I'm because right now it's only going like if I'm moving left or right and I start holding down the up button at the same time as the left and right button, then I continue moving forward. And I think most people would prefer that if you were to do that, that you would start moving up or down, right? All right, what I think I can do is this will I can make this give a block response basically if I do custom. So okay, this is probably how I did it before. Let's set this back to block all but dynamic for now because we need that. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into our project settings. And we're gonna look for, I think it's in physics. Or is it collision? Is there a special one just for collision? There is. Okay. Because what I can do is I can create my own presets. So if you see here, we've got all these. So what I can do is I can make a new overlap. I can make something based off of overlap all dynamic. So if I can't right click this one. New so we say overlap, and then I come in here for visibility, and let's call this destroyed wall. And now we have our own thing that is basically just based off the overlap all dynamic. It should have the same settings even. So object type world dynamic. Are you a no? So world dynamic. Query only. World dynamic. Everything is overlap. But for our destroyed wall, we want it to still run. We want it to still run basically on the visibility channel. So now if I go in here and do this, what we should see is that, yes, this is currently block all dynamic. Of course it is, because we didn't set anything different for it yet. So now though, if I come in here and I set collision profile, actually I need to grab this first. Set collision profile. And then we name that destroyed wall, right? Do I still have that pulled up? No, I don't. There's an easy way to find out. Let's go over here, scroll down, and destroyed wall right there at the bottom. So that's, yep. And then what we're going to do is Control C. And we're going to come down here and also so we're going to want to do this again. Set collision profile name. We're going to want to run this here. Then we'll reset. Compile. Save. And what we want to call this one is block all dynamic. Compile. I spelled that right, didn't I? Block all dynamic. Yes. Okay, good. Now, instead of doing this based on the visibility of the cube, which is subject to change, what we can do is replace it with the box and get collision profile. And then, rather than ask is visible, equals, boom, destroyed wall. And in order to plug this into the same spot here without rewriting anything else, we're actually going to ask if this is not true. So that's exclamation equal, not equal, right there. Not. Why is it? I don't want the. There used to just be a thing called not. There it is. So if this doesn't equal destroyed wall, then the wall is not destroyed, obviously. So this is still going to disappear. And let's run it to make sure. So what should happen is when I destroy the wall, I should be able to walk through it. So I can walk in, but now I can't walk out. That's weird. Well, I still can't walk through. What's that about? I'll bet I know what's happening. Okay, so down here, yeah, our return value is just would collide. So what we need to do is, rather than just declare that we would collide, we need to now check and see if we have the destroyed wall tag. And that means we need to bypass this. Because we'll want this to run one way or another. So basically now we need to see from our hit actor gets collision I guess I can't call the... Wait, get from the component. Okay. Get collision profile name. And we want it to be equals. And then we want the value. Where is it? Where's our wall? Control C. Control V. Control S. Compile. Save again. Now, branch. Colonel, sir, the clap of my ass cheeks is preventing me from making the game. Hey, you know, we all have our challenges. Anyway, let's see if this works. So, boom, wall gone. Oh, I can walk through now. But only when I turn around and re-engage. What is happening to my leg? One moment, can I... That's not what I want. it's stepping up on something. Because this is an IK rig. Okay. But what's it stepping on? Strange. Anyway, how you doing? I'm debugging. Access none, trying to read property, break hit result component, blah blah blah. Yeah, okay. So wait. Does the lets me return the wall, and now we have collision again, so we can't pass through it. So that's working, but we need to right now, at least, we need to turn away from the wall in order to be able to walk through it. So that's not what we want. Also, I am willing to bet that's related to all those error messages. Oh, I know the problem. Okay, so we need to actually come through and set would collide to false on the upper path. I'll bet that's it. Let's see. So no wall. And I can pass through without turning around. Nice. Making stuff move in Blender is very amateur. Hey, whatever works. Whatever works is what works. But yeah, like, I don't know. Depending on what you mean by making stuff move in Blender. Because, like, you can make a lot of stuff happen in Blender, and it's probably going to be easier than making it happen in Engine. Depending on what it is exactly. Oh, like that. Yeah, when it comes to animations, for video games at least, you don't want to do that in Blender, because unless you are like, I could probably get away with it. For this, simply because of how my control scheme works in the first place. Because like I'm manually moving the character I'm manually moving the character like via a timeline to like advance my location. If I were to, I could easily replace that with a animation that moves me forward the exact same amount of space, and it would probably be fine, just because this is a tile-based movement system, right? Yeah, okay, it's all working. And I know it's going to occasionally access none when reading this property, because there will not always be a component to hit, right? But is it... Okay, one moment. Is it calling it every single frame? Yeah, okay. Can I make it not do that? Unless there's a hit detected? Like, see, nothing wrong with being able to animate in After Effects. So, branch We need this one to return on true, otherwise... I'm trying to decide whether it's worth clearing the debug error. Because it's right. It's not always going to detect that. And that's a lot of error messages for it to be throwing up in the background in the meantime, right? But also, it could potentially be a lot of extra code just to get rid of it. For a thing the player's not even going to notice. Like, I know it's there because I am... It's probably worth it. As long as this works, anyway. Because that way nothing happens if this is false. Although we would still need to make sure would collide doesn't run in that case, wouldn't we? And no error message. Okay. Okay. So the actual character I'm going to use most likely will not have an IK rig, so we're not going to need to worry about that. I haven't designed a character yet, though, so, you know. Anyway. Yeah, that's, I think that's about everything I wanted to get done today. With this. See, I was really thinking that I was gonna finish Devil May Cry 3's main story yesterday, and then we'd start with an hour of this, and then get into... I don't even know. If the Devil May Cry, who did it ask? Lady, apparently. Lady is the one who apparently gave Dante the idea for the name Devil May Cry, because she's like, well, I guess a devil may cry if it's mourning the loss of someone it loves, because Dante just killed his brother. And he felt bad about it. And that's the plot of Devil May Cry 3, which is actually a prequel to Devil May Cry 1. And then Devil May Cry 4 either happens... Devil May Cry 4 either happens before Devil May Cry 2 or after Devil May Cry 2, depending on whether or not you play Devil May Cry 5. Which is an interesting way for Capcom to set the continuity there. Anyway, I think I did everything I need to here. I think so. I could probably at this point turn off all this debug code and just run straight through the sphere trace. Boom. The only issue is now you can't actually see what's happening because, like, you can't visualize it without the debug code at this point. I might put the debug code on the wall back on, just the wall. Just because, you know? That way we can actually see this, like... Because that's the only way I've got a timer. So, yeah, I don't know. I've got an hour of stream left, potentially, but I don't know what to do with it. I guess we could still play Dead as Disco. Though that's gonna immediately make this video get demonetized. Like, I could not possibly monetize that video because Dead at Disco it is entirely copyrighted music, and also half the fun of it is importing your own songs, which are also almost certainly for sure copyrighted, right? Good evening, how's it going? I finally beat Virgil. It took an hour at the start of this stream in order to do it. And then we got through it, and now I have finished the thing that I was hoping to program today before doing before doing Dead as Disco. So I'm trying to think of what to do, because this is kind of broken up my plans. I could still do an hour of Dead as Disco, no problem. But now we have this pesky issue of the first 2 hours are things that I could upload to YouTube, no problem. And the last hour will be something I definitely cannot upload to YouTube if it is Dead as Disco, because Dead as Disco is, like, YouTube is going to hate that game. Twitch is probably going to hate that game. But I do want to show off that demo. It's so fun. Somehow, I swear, a majority of this game's budget went to getting Michael Sambello's She's a Maniac on the soundtrack. And they use it for the demo level. Okay, any Devil May Cry fans in the house know if Play as Virgil actually offers any additional story, or if it's just like... He's playing his... Okay, okay, so it's just the... No, it is... Okay, if you play Dead as Disco, you will agree that it is not a waste of money. You have to play the demo before you decide it's a waste of money. Because, like, the vibes on that alone are insane. It's also kind of like Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush, a lot of its budget probably went, rather than developing the game, they got songs by Black Keys and Nine Inch Nails on the track, right? And so many other rock songs. That, like, that had to have been a significant portion of the game's budget. But it was worth it. You can't play Hi-Fi Rush and say, nah, that was not a good investment of their money. Like, it is... You know what I could do? I could just, like, start and stop the recording, and then because YouTube is gonna complain about all the copyrighted music in the recording, just upload that as a separate video. I don't know. Or is there, like, a community game that, like... I've never done a community game night before, but, like, I've got Buckshot Roulette, I've got Uno, what else do I have? I've got Jackbox. I don't know if there's enough of us for a Jackbox game. You think Twitch's servers are acting up? Oh yeah, I also forgot I've got my Steam library on screen. You don't need to see my whole Steam library. I don't think there's anything shameful in there, but like think Twitch's servers are acting up? I guess the other option is that I could just start Devil May Cry 4, couldn't I? Like that is a very real option. And we finally get to meet Nero. Like we could just do that too. I think that's what we do, isn't it? We just start Devil May Cry 4. And I will save the Dead as Disco stream for another session where I feel like that needs to be its own stream, simply so that like no one's like, oh, where'd that section go on YouTube? It's gonna be like, oh yeah, no, that's up. Like obviously, that's why that video was not uploaded to YouTube, right? I'll post it to the Badger Trove Patreon or something so that it's not lost to time. But anyway. Yeah, let's do that. Let's just 1 moment. What screen is over here? Boom. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna just switch over to Devil May Cry 4. Let me go in here and